Joined by head coach Caitlin Lowe. So who wants to start us off?
Caitlin, obviously not ranked for the first time preseason in a long time, not making the postseason last year. How much do you feel this is a redemption year for your program?
I definitely feel that. I think it's actually appropriate that we're not ranked right now. I think that's motivation for our team to basically earn everything that we get this year and, chip away and go to work. And I think, if you look at that, to me, it's just like, okay, we have to prove ourselves this year. And they've taken it upon themselves to work that way this entire year. So excited for them to take the stage.
So I know you hired Josh, but really the big hire that you made was pitching that everyone's interested in,
Mm-hmm.
What have you seen from Christian so far, and what are you seeing from the staff working with him that might be different than from before?
Well, his preparation for practice, for every week, for games, which we're getting into now, for scouting opponents, it's just unmatched. His work ethic is fantastic. He communicates really well with the bullpen and not just the pitching staff, but the catchers as well, so that it feels like we have a real comprehensive plan going into the week. He's also made it pretty apparent what everyone in the staff is working on so that even Aisa knows what AB is doing in the bullpen and can be there for encouragement in some instances. The hitters sometimes know what they're trying to get after, and it's been a more collaborative effort and feels like a really good group dynamic.
For those of us that weren't privy to talk to you in the fall, how difficult of a decision was that to make the change with the pitching coach?
Extremely difficult. I think our past history, and Taryn's a great friend, and I think she's going to do great things still. And bringing Christian in, it's just been great for our bullpen, and to have kind of new, fresh eyes, but also just a different approach to how he's going to train them for season. And I interviewed a lot of people, quite a few people, especially for interviewing two positions. I spent 2 weeks on Zoom calls and phone calls, and it was very apparent. I spent 2.5 to 3 hours with him on a Zoom that I could just keep talking to him and the way he thinks the game. I'm really just excited to go through matchups with him and a full season of how we can really get the most out of each pitcher.
He talked to Kim and I when we had a chance to talk to him about thinking of a different way to have a game of softball in terms of pitching, what you're looking at, what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. How do you think the staff took to that during that first couple weeks in terms of hearing all these new ideas and new ways to look at the game?
I think they really have done a good job buying into their role and being great at what they bring to the table, not trying to be too much. And we try to preach that offensively and defensively as well. We brought each player into our program for a reason, and we want them to be their best selves. And I think there's comfort in knowing that I have to be great at my skill set, and I'm going to be put into games in positions for that skill set and in good matchups. So I think it was refreshing for them, and also gave them just some ownership over making sure that they are able to bring their tools to the table on a daily basis so we can have some consistency in the circle.
And during fall, Reagan played center quite a bit, and Jazz over there in right. So are you looking at that going forward, or is Jazz moving back to center?
Well, Jazz can fit anywhere seamlessly, and I think that's the greatest thing about her. She's a little Swiss Army knife out there, and she can. I have confidence in her playing all three positions. So Reagan's done a great job in center field as far as covering ground that Jazz does. She's got a really strong arm and can make deep throws. But really, I think the flexibility in the outfield right now is fantastic. So to me, it's going to be who is offensively on and what combinations we can work with defensively.
What was the biggest factor that enabled Allie Skaggs to improve so much defensively last year, do you think?
Lauren Lappin. I truly believe that. And I think, I also credit Allie's work ethic and being all in and coachable for, to go from Candrea to Coach Lappin, and Coach is Candrea is he's big into defense, and so she got a ton of reps her freshman year, even though she didn't get all the live reps. But then when Lapp came in, I think she just went to work once that became apparent that, that was an opening for us after Raina graduated. And yeah, those two have just done great things, and I credit her work ethic, but also Lap kind of bringing out the best in each one of our infielders, because some are blessed with great hands, some are blessed with great range, and Skaggs was blessed with a beautiful swing, and then she put work in defensively, and you usually see one of those two things. People usually come in with amazing offensive weapons or defensive weapons, and then there's the rare case that you come in with both, and usually, each person on our team is working to get better at the other side.
She seems very proud of the Gold Glove trophy itself. Has she
She
brought
should
it
be.
around to you? Has she shown it to you?
I got to give it to her, which was awesome, in the office, and I mean, I could not be more jealous. That's the coolest thing ever, and I love that we crossed over and we are doing it in softball now, and I think, I'm a defensive person. I love just obsess over defense, and for them to have that goal to work for as the same as offensive awards, and I just think it's so cool, and I love how much effort and emphasis that our players put into their defense, which has been really cool to see, especially this year. I think they're starting to make each other better at every position.
Not that you don't ever not want to make the postseason, Caitlin, but do you almost look at it like, hey, now that's the end of that era. Now I can start my era of this program and where I want to take it?
I don't think exactly how you said it, but I think it does feel like a little bit of a fresh start with this group. And we made it a point to really dive into our culture and values this fall and spring so that they had more ownership over kind of what we were saying. And it's been a really cool process. We read the book Legacy, and we've kind of been going chapter by chapter as a group and talking about what's important to us, how it relates to us, how can we be better teammates, how we can be a better team, how leaders don't just, we're not just looking to 2 or 3 people to be leaders, but everyone can be a leader in their own way. So it's been nice to have that kind of start with this group and for them to have some sense of ownership over that story too, while still, paying ode to the past as well.
In your conversations with Coach Kendra, did he have any sage advice for you on how to move past, what happened last year?
He's there for me every single day, and I think, we talked immediately after. I can't remember exact advice, but he's been in my corner every step of the way, and is excited to see this team and is always chomping at the bit to come out to practice and see where we're at. So, I'm just excited to have him in my corner, but at the same time, he knows what it takes to kind of get over that hump and go to the next level, and he's been just, an ear and a sounding board for me, which has been great.
Every U of A coach has been asked this ad nauseum over the last few months, and if I'm not mistaken, it looks like a Pac-12 logo on your sleeve. What can you say? I mean, the Pac-12 and softball is such a ubiquitous thing in this country, and that the growth of the sport is so committed to the Pac-12 or vice versa. What can you say about this being that last year for the Pac-10, Pac-12, and what that means to this program and what Arizona, UCLA, and others in this conference have been able to build for this sport?
Well, it's just unmatched, I think. I was doing an interview yesterday for the Alumni magazine, and we were talking about, I remember being in travel ball and just everybody as, a high school level kid, junior high level kid, wanted to play in the Pac-10 at that point. And it was just this dominant conference. It was, we were always in the championship game, great coaches, great teams, and you always wanted to be a part. And, getting into the Pac-10, there's nothing that prepares you better for when I was a player than going through the conference. And I think you saw in the last few years of the Pac-12 conference, and we really haven't skipped a beat. I mean, it's been one of the most competitive conferences out there. So it was a sad day when we heard that, and at the same time, we're excited for this new venture. We are excited to go into the Big 12 and make our mark and write more history for Arizona there in the Big 12. But it's definitely sad. But at the same time, when we're scheduling right now, we are going to keep some of those matchups very much alive. And I think that's really important for us, that we play the Stanfords, the Oregons, the UCLAs in the future. And, I don't think that talent level is going to take a dip at all. We're just moving on to different conferences and going to make our mark in a different way.
How does that change you're going to the Big 12, more Texas teams, more teams, central countries. So how does that change the landscape of recruiting and what you're looking for moving forward as you're going into a new conference?
Well, we took our first dive into Texas recruiting this past fall, and we're excited about it. It's a big sell when we can say, yeah, you can play at Arizona, but you still get to play in front of your family. So I think that's important. Obviously, we get a lot of our team is from California, and we play a lot over there, and we'll still play, obviously, a lot of home games on the West Coast. So, but just excited for that opportunity. And I will say, in addition to that, our 2 new staff members bring different recruiting opportunities in that regard, and they've, recruited different parts of the country as well. So that's been a great addition.
That's in Texas.
What are the hotbeds? All of Texas. and I will say, a lot of teams in Texas draw from not just Texas, but other states as well. There's really not any lulls across the country. I mean, softball has become so popular, and it's a huge credit to our college game right now and how it's exploded. Softball is played year-round in a lot of different states very competitively, and those teams travel too. So, we had one of the biggest tournaments in January over in Phoenix. We're not allowed to recruit it, which is a bummer, but so they're taking, it feels like a college season almost, where they're hitting different states throughout all of summer and all of fall. So we're just making sure we find the best players from wherever they are.
Speaking of scheduling, this year, none of the big tournaments, you're not going to like Marietta or Clearwater. What were your thought processes about making the schedule this year?
We wanted to play, even when we weren't playing maybe top 10, top 25 teams, they are all crazy competitive teams with high RPIs, and I think that was really important to us. It was also important to us to get in a hostile environment, which is why we're taking that trip to Alabama against really good teams. Same with, having those 2 pit stops before we start conference. And we wanted to make sure that our home tournaments were competitive. Excited to play a lot of those teams at home and then go on the road to Alabama and create our own momentum and our own energy, because we're the only ones bringing it in this, in the stadium versus having everybody cheering for you at home. So I think it's always important to hit those things, and we got to travel to Arkansas last year and feel a little bit of that SEC environment. And, we've been to Alabama before, and I really appreciated those trips because it prepares you for more than even conference. It's the postseason type of environment as well.
What have you seen from the newcomers this season so far, and is there anyone that stood out to you?
I've been super impressed with our freshmen in general. They really haven't had that learning curve, freshman moment type of thing. Reagan Shockey has done a great job in the outfield and handling, she hit leadoff for us all fall and stepped into that role quite nicely. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but to see someone kind of take that on and just embrace it is fantastic. Ryan Maddox in the circle has been just nails, and I think, to face our hitters in inner squad is a tough thing for freshmen to do. There aren't a lot of breaks in our offensive lineup, so for her to come in and embrace that challenge, get hit a little bit, then come back and figure it out, I think that says a lot about a pitcher. So excited about her. Emily Shep behind the plate has been great. I give a lot of credit to Lapp and the way she's worked with both of our catchers, quite frankly, this season, and just excited for not just this year for her, but her 4 years here, because she's done a lot in the few months that she's been with us. Zadie, I can't say enough about Zadie in left field, and her and Dakota have just made each other better this whole time. And Brooke Mannon in the circle, she's done great work with Christian, because everybody comes in from, with a different background, having known the game to a certain degree, and then you meet someone like Coach Conrad, and he has loved the game, thought about the game since he was a player, but also since he was a manager at Oregon, Florida State, and he just has so much knowledge. So for them to get in that environment and really talk the game, learn the game, understand how to pitch versus just throw, I think that's probably been her biggest growth experience so far this year.
I'll ask you about managers, because you brought that up. And I know you've got a manager who plays for the men's who's going to be the men's national team. What do you look for in managers? What do they do for you, and what are you doing for them?
Well, let me tell you, we had one when I was a player, and they did, I mean, that person was in charge of everything. I mean, field setup, helping, running buckets, packing the bus, like everything. It's become more of a situation where we can utilize very specific skill sets. So the one that you speak of can throw batting practice. We have people who can catch bullpens. And that's been more and more valuable as you see, you know, in my day we had 2 or 3 pitchers on a roster and your catchers could catch all of the bullpens. Well, now you have 6 or 7 on a roster. You need help in the bullpen to take just the wear and tear off your catcher's legs. So that's been a big thing for us. Batting practice is a huge thing for us because as these roster sizes grow, and you know we've stayed around 20 with around 15 hitters. It's hard for one person to do that every day. And, you know, that was the way it was back in the day, you know, when I was playing, the same person threw BP every day. And now we can not only keep them fresh, but mix looks because, you know, Coach Conrad throws lefty, junky spin, and we have a manager that comes in and has a little bit of upspin. So it's kind of cool for them to get different looks, different distances, and keep them a little uncomfortable in the box.
Rankings are so external, especially preseason rankings, but it's an absolute rarity to see Arizona unranked in preseason. Any way you use that as motivation, or is it just something you ignore?
Well, it's totally motivation, and I think it's appropriate. You know, I think it is. We have not proven ourselves to the softball world. So for us to go and chip away and feel like we earned a ranking, I think that's more valuable to this team. So that's the way I'm looking at it. I think, you know, they're going to, if they see their name up there, it's because they earned it. And I think that's really important.
About Allie growing from freshman year to this year, but just looking back at her career, I mean, this being senior year and getting to this point, I mean, what has she meant to the program?
A lot. I mean, I can remember in my opening press conference talking about not just Allie, but her class, that 2020 class, and you're going to see a lot of them today. But she has just been the ultimate teammate, competitor. She's so selfless. You know, I think she bleeds red and blue in this program. I think everyone, 1 through 20 on our team, they talk about the loyalty and the passion that they have for wearing the A. I think it means even a little bit more now after we've gone through this exercise. So I can't say enough about her as a person. And I think, you know, whatever she does, and really all of our seniors, whatever they go on to do, they're going to be excellent at. And just excited to be involved in her life well beyond her last game here.
Josh, he said that you guys might run out of innings this year, but he was okay with that because he wanted to be aggressive. Is he?
Oh. Let me tell you what, our catchers have silenced him a bit in practice. But no, we are, you know, I think we're taking advantage of the speed we have throughout our lineup right now, which is exciting. I think we're very well-rounded in that regard. We have pop, but we can run a little bit and kind of create some chaos. And I think that's his main thing. Aside from stealing bases, it's just how much chaos can we create, because we know how hard it is to defend. And so it's just a matter of like always, you know, we call them quabs, quality at bats, always putting pressure on a defense, not being an easy out, forcing them to make tough plays. And I think if we're doing that, then we're putting runs on the board for sure.
We've got time for 1 or 2 more.
Help Olivia just getting a year under her belt and having this much training at the U of A.
Sorry, Olivia?
Yep.
Liv's been, well, honestly, I'm going to talk about our sophomore class as a whole, because I think to me that's kind of been one of the spots that I'm excited to see it kind of unfold this year, because when you go into Pac-12 play as a freshman and an entire season as a freshman, you don't really know what to expect. And I think they've taken every practice, every opportunity for a game, and they've understood what they're prepping for. And so there's a maturity level with that. There's a way that you walk, move, carry yourself. There's a way that you hold other people accountable on the team. There's a way that you teach freshmen what that's like. And, you know, Olivia's come back in it's weird to call her Olivia, sorry, Liv. So I call her, I'm like, that's why I was like, who are you talking about? you know, she came back in January with just this, like, let's go. And I think as a catcher, it's really important to have that year under your belt because now you feel like you have some ownership with the pitching staff too, and it becomes more of a battery. And I think she's done a great job taking Emily under her wing as well and just prepping her for those moments. And we didn't have, you know, Izzy did it a little bit last year, but she was also playing multiple positions. So those two have kind of been good for us behind the plate just to grow off each other, build off each other. And I'm excited for this sophomore class to kind of have that experience and play with that calmness and that, you know, being able to stay mellow and right here and just level and just excited for their year ahead.
You guys had the best fielding percentage in program history last year. You had one of the best offenses in the nation. The pitching, of course, is so important in softball. Where have you seen growth in that area over the offseason from either the kids who are returning or maybe some promising signs from some of the newcomers?
Well, right now, Devin and Sydney are both going through some injuries right now. And so they are working to become their best selves, get healthy, and we are fully supporting that and trying to get them back as soon as possible. But our team, our current team and our current bullpen has trained as this staff for all fall and most of the spring. So I've seen, you know, the ones that are competing in the scrimmages right now, they have really blossomed, and especially the one on Saturday, and really just made it their own. I think Christian's done a great job of, like, you know, I touched on it before, but these are the tools that you need to own when we call upon your number to be in the game, and this is what you need to be ready to do, and they've really embraced the heck out of that in their roles. So I'm excited for them to have the opportunity. I think we're playing more as a unit on defense, and it doesn't feel like we have, you know, the greatest fielding percentage, and then there's the pitching staff. It feels like a defensive unit, and we're working together. You know, you might see some different shifts this year that, you know, we expect people to hit into, and it feels like a more comprehensive plan defensively versus, you know, you have to hit your spot or you have to get this person out, and it just feels a little bit more like 9-on-1 out on the field defensively.
Year of softball at the U of A, how much are you looking forward to bringing, you know, alums back, but also, you know, celebrating the present, but connecting with the history of this program?
I'm so excited, and the girls have actually, we started a little task where they are finding someone who's worn their jersey number, and we've slowly but surely reached out to everyone, and that's been cool. I think it's so important for them to connect, you know, things we do are things we've done in the past to what they're doing now. And, you know, I think it was Paige Dimmler asked, you know, what were your rituals as a team when you were here? I was like, you guys are doing them. You guys are doing all the same things. And those were passed down to us. And there's something special about the connection. And we are all just, you know, links in the chain of this crazy awesome story. And to me, like, I could not be more excited for the 50 years, because I don't know if you guys remember, but when we had Florida State in town, we had a little bit of a reunion, and we had them all out on the field, and it was probably one of the highlights of my coaching career. It was just, I mean, just like, yes, like, you know, the greats are on the field, but also they built this field, and just, you know, for our players to have that kind of connection and respect for those who have come before them, but they've also got this newfound respect for wanting to leave the jersey in a better place. And I think that is such a cool concept because, you know, one of the quotes in the book talks about standing on the shoulders of giants, and I think that's so cool. It's like, you know, you could look at the legacy of the program as something that's threatening, but really it's like so empowering if you look at it the right way. So we're excited. I know they're excited. And just, it's been fun to listen to stories about them meeting their person, because first they did I just said, okay, go Google, find somebody. So I just heard a bunch of stats, but now they're actually getting to know them, which has been really cool. And I don't think we, you know, take enough time to do that. And it's just been really important for us to make that connection this year.
Real quick with the injuries, Caitlin, and what's your rotation going to be to open in terms of the pitching?
Like, who's starting? Well, I can't tell you that right now. My opponents are watching. No, tomorrow we're sitting down as a staff and we're going over all the video that we've kind of watched separately. We'll go over what we feel like the best matchups are, and that's not just in the circle, that's offensively, that's defensively. But I do know we have the tools and they're ready to compete. They're ready to rise to the occasion, and I'm excited for them.
Add to that with Devin, will she be able to still hit, or is she out like fully trying to get healthy?
She is injured right now, and we are working to get her healthy on both sides of the ball.
That's all we have time for. Coach Lowe.
All right.
In the players.